Raj, and this is Kayla. She's eating a salad.
Yes.
So don't mind her. And I was just telling her that when we do our anything, everything, and nothing at all video, Catherine and I are usually drinking and eating our
Yeah.
breakfast. So,
Well, I mean, it makes sense. You might as well, like, coffee chats.
yes, exactly. So, don't be afraid to have your meal there. Munch away.
Munch away. I love it.
So I thought we'd do something a little different than going into the carts today. Because we might have to be short and sweet. We're not sure how long my battery is going to last.
So if we suddenly disappear, that's why.
That's why. But I thought, I saw this thing on Pinterest about deck cleansing.
Okay.
And suggested ways to do it. And some of them were a little different than what I have heard. Now,
Interesting.
there was the one of knock 3 times,
Yeah.
right?
That's a quick and easy one.
That is a quick and easy one. I don't know if it cleanses so much as it wakes up the deck,
Okay.
you know?
Could you use it as like a quick reset in between readings?
You could. Yeah, for sure. Sort of like I sometimes use it, especially first thing, like if it's my first reading, and I feel like I'm just sort of waking up my deck and saying, hey, time to get away.
Time to work.
Exactly.
Let's earn your keep.
Exactly. So another one was shuffling, right? Just straight up shuffling. And I know that when I was on the road, and I would spend hours just shuffling my deck.
Yeah.
And riffling it. There's the riffle shuffle too.
I have troubles doing riffle shuffles because my hands aren't that big.
Oh, okay.
So it really depends on the deck.
Right.
If I can riffle it or not.
Well,
Oh, see, she's a pro. I wouldn't be able to do that.
it's because I've had hours of practice.
Yeah.
And this was my very first professional deck.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, so it's well worked in, and I've had the gilded one, and now I have a new one. So I just realized I've been doing tarot for almost 40 years.
Holy wow.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, because I was doing a little bio because someone wanted to write up, and so I was kind of like, well, how long have I been doing this? I mean, technically, I've been doing not professionally 40 years.
Yeah.
Probably closer to 30 years professionally, but 40 years altogether.
But I
Maybe-
mean, it's easy how, like, it's interesting how we go from something we're, like, dabbling into, and then it just transitions into, like, part of your routine, and suddenly 10 to 20 years later, you're like, how long have I been doing this?
Yeah, right. So when I was on the road, I would spend hours and hours just shuffling
Yeah.
and riffling. And that does, like, I always say this is one of the best ways to cleanse your deck because it's sort of like when you pet your cat, And when I pet Myrtle, I'm like all up in her and I'm just rubbing everything. She's loving it and all that. She loves that more than Bob does. Bob will take pets definitely.
Yeah, but he's like, you gotta do it on my situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas Myrtle lets me just rough and tumble her if I want to, and she's a thick coat cat. So.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, I can equate that. One of the families I work for, they have 2 cats. One of them's rather skittish around people that isn't in their inner circle. Like, I'm almost in the inner circle. I see them enough because their dogs are like, oh, it's you, okay.
Yeah.
But the cats are still a little standoffish, or at least one of them is. And I always have to be like, here's my hand.
Right.
Okay, now you sniff it. Can I pet your ear?
Right.
Okay, now can I pet your back?
Yeah.
Where, like, you and Myrtle, you're like, I'm in there. So I just
But Myrtle's the same way. She's very skittish around people. Like,
Yeah.
For a while, my housekeeper, when I had one, didn't believe I had Myrtle because she'd never seen her because she always hides when new people come in.
She's like, not now.
And the best way to get my granddaughters to be quiet is to have Myrtle come out and they'll like freeze because they don't want to startle her.
That's
They're like,
cute.
oh my God, Myrtle's out of her nest.
I remember one of the first tarot courses you did. Myrtle, was it Myrtle that used to sit on cards, or was that Bob?
That was Bob.
Oh, that was Bob. Okay.
Bob likes the cards. Myrtle likes the crystals.
That's hilarious. Yes, because Bob used to go to Diane, and then Myrtle would stay with you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I remember correctly. That's hilarious.
Yeah, Bob. Oh, when I was doing cards at first, I was doing it out of my house, and every time I would even in the middle of a tarot reading, he would get up on the table and lay down on the cards.
He's like,
he
"Hey, I
loved the cards.
just want to make sure my energy's all in this."
Yes. And they do say that's actually a good way to cleanse your deck too, is to have an animal.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm like, that's what Bob was doing. It was just cleansing the deck.
The energy's a little sus here. Let me fix that.
I actually have a picture, I think, of Bob sitting at the table with the deck of cards sitting on the table
Yeah.
before a client came. And it's just, he looks like he's about to do a card reading.
So I have a picture of Bosco. So Bosco's my cardigan corgi, and he'll often lay on my work bag. So he's like, "You
okay.
can't leave if I'm laying on your stuff."
Right.
And at one point I was shuffling a deck on the couch or whatever, and I put it back in its little pouch, and I put it down to go do something. And when I come back, he's like almost cuddled with it, like,
Aw.
"Hey, you gotta take me if you want your deck."
Right.
It's the cutest thing ever.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Now, one of the ways that's listed here is sorting. So I really like this idea. This is a new thing that I hadn't heard of. So I'm learning.
Oh, really?
something
Because I
new.
do that every so often, just as like I feel like it needs something, and I always resort it and
Yeah.
then reshuffle it into
Yeah, like sorted in like order of the major arcana in each of the
Yep.
suits and stuff.
Yep.
And they say that's actually a really good way to rest it and reset it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Good
so-
to know that was already intrinsically in there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've done that. I've done the sorting of my decks, like I said, or like you said, sort of accidentally, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing with
Yeah.
it. So now if I do that, I'm like, oh, I'll do it with purpose and intention.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, that's a great way to, kind of get to know your deck too.
Well, because if I remember, is it one of your classes that said this? If you take, so like putting the major arcana aside for a little bit, you take the suits and you go ace all the way through to king, they tell a story with the illustration. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can do the same thing with the major arcana. You really see the light and dark parts.
Oh, okay, yes.
When you do that with the major arcana too. So, because the major arcana is really the hero's journey, right? So it's like when I first put it out on a table, you need a pretty long table to do the major
You do.
arcana.
Yeah.
So when I first did it, I did it on like we had rented a meeting room, and I thought, oh, let's put it out and let's see. And I'm like, oh, look, you can see the very obvious wave of light and darkness, and it was kind of cool when I.
Well, it's also a good way to see how the story weaves too, right?
And especially if it's a new deck, because not every story is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like they all have subtle differences and whatnot, right? So, maybe there's a few little things in the major arcana, like they have all the regular elements, but maybe that deck, has whatever. Like, I can't even imagine what the baseball deck looks like.
Well, and that's like there's a dog deck, and I'm like, oh, I want to see all the puppies, and then I'm like, wait, is this gonna be too far? Because I'm okay if it deviates a little bit.
Yeah.
So like, I actually I forgot to bring it next. I'll try to bring it next Monday. The deck I was telling you I had FOMO about a deck recently, so I bought it. It's a fairy tale deck. It's Lisa Hunt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so it was out of print for the longest time, and it reissued through U.S. Games.
Okay.
And it's interesting because some of the cards get renamed.
Oh.
So I'm like, am I gonna be able to use this? You would definitely, because you're all like the fairy tales and all into that.
Yeah.
So I'll have to find it. But like I already see, I'm like, oh, thank God they're numbered. I can deal with that.
Yeah,
So even if it's renamed, what unfortunately with this version, it doesn't have the original guidebook. It only has the small guidebook.
Oh.
So the original guidebook had snippets of the fairy tales with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this one doesn't.
Oh, that sucks. 'Cause
Yes.
That's the beauty of it. Like,
Yes.
having the little snippets, right? Because like with my fairy tale deck that I have, it does go into why they're using that fairy tale for that card or whatever, right?
I like that it has like, what is it? I don't even remember because I was just looking at it last night. But it has like what it's called in the RWS, where it's from. So like, is it
Oh.
Germanic? Is it Dutch? Is it whatever? Because each card has a fairy tale element to it. Like
Oh, okay.
whether it's Red Riding Hood or there's like a boy in a chest, and I was like, I'm gonna have to look that one up because I have no idea what that one means.
Oh, okay.
So it's really interesting.
Oh, okay. Cool. Does it name the fairy tale for each card?
I don't remember. I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Because I got reading and then got distracted by Criminal Minds.
There you go.
So,
That'll do it.
yep.
Now, the other way, too, they mentioned smoke and moon cleansing.
Ooh.
Now, we all know about the moon. You know, you put your crystals out under a full moon. Now, you can, this is what a lot of people don't realize when you're doing crystals, moon water, whatever, you can do it in other phases of the moon. It doesn't always have to be in the full moon, right?
So that's the interesting part because everyone's like, it must be the full moon, but really, what does it matter?
You can do new moon water, for instance, if you want water that has intentions and the energy of that. You could do dark moon water. You could do waning moon water if you want water to help you release things. You know, if you want encouragement to move forward or to face challenges, you could do the first quarter moon water. You know, so yeah, it doesn't have to be just the full moon. Now, the sun cleansing, they do give the warning, and they do that with most of the sun cleansing, is to not necessarily put it in direct sunlight because it will bleach your cards.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's why they would hang out laundry to dry on the sunny days, obviously, because it would dry faster. It's better if there's wind, but sun will naturally bleach clothing. And so that's why your towels and things that you put up there will go lighter.
I've watched, so Josh kept a jacket in the back of his car. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he noticed it, but when he puts it on, I'm like, yep, that's the one you kept in the back of your car. 'Cause
Yeah.
I can see certain spots.
Yeah.
From the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, then they tell you to be mindful of that with crystals. And of course, they tell you to be mindful of, you know, the crystal hangings that you can put in windows to be careful.
Ooh, yes,
Because
'cause if
there
they-
have been homes that have started on fire.
Well, that was I think you handed me there was a meme or a cartoon or something about crystals and fire, like, make sure you cover your crystal ball.
Yeah. There was a whole article about that. Of don't just leave your crystal ball in a room somewhere. Have a covering for it. Not just because it's good to kind of keep it safe that way, but so it doesn't burn your house down by accidental sun rays.
Witching 101, make sure there's no direct sunlight on your crystals.
Yes, exactly. And then, of course, smoke cleansing as well.
That's really neat because I've seen people do spells on social media. Not that I was paying attention to what spell they were doing. I was just watching the video because they were using smoke cleansing. It was really cool.
Okay. Now, in this thing that I saw, it said the smoke of a candle. So you can use a candle, and it wouldn't be true smoke. It'd be more of a fire cleansing then. So you wouldn't bring it like directly through the flame, obviously.
No.
Because you don't want to burn your cards. But the same thing goes if you're using kind of smudge of any kind. You bring the cards through the smoke, not the sage or the lavender or whatever you're burning, because then you will get embers on your deck, or you're more likely to.
And then if you're, smudging or smoking, cleansing a really important deck,
Yes.
you may not be able to repurchase said really important
Exactly.
deck.
So you hold the smudge and you bring your cards through the smoke, not the other way around. Because I've seen that happen on videos where people will be doing stuff. Well, first of all, they're lighting up the whole big sage stick like it's
You're
a
like, oh,
cigar.
this will do you fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the sage bowls are for.
Yep.
To crumble it in, So, but they'll light it up like it's a big old cigar and smoke the whole place out.
I mean, something's to be said about a room smudging.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe that's not your intent with your deck.
Yeah, exactly. And it's supposed to be disrespectful to not do it that way. The only time you would do it that way is if you're outdoors, but even then it's kind of like if you could not
Well, yeah, because if
burn
you're
the whole thing.
outdoors, you want to make sure it stays lit for everyone that's participating. But I can understand, again, it's wasteful. It's not as intentional.
You can always go back and get more.
Yep.
Again, you don't have to burn it all at once. And I was taught by an Indigenous fire keeper how to start the smudge. And I was like, oh. And ever since then, it's like, it takes time, it takes practice and patience.
Well, I mean, I think those are principles we could probably utilize in other areas of our lives.
In all areas of life. But yeah, like when I was officiating a wedding, and they wanted to do a smudging, which is, yeah, totally, I'm into that, being Indigenous myself. But there happened to be an Indigenous fire keeper there, so
I
of
remember you
course,
telling me this.
yeah, so
Yes.
of course he would light it, not me, kind of thing, because I sort of bowed to him, kind of thing, and his knowledge. And he turned around and he was just like, doing his thing, and then he turned back around and all the smoke was everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, how do you do that? What magic is this?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a reason why certain people do certain things and they're assigned to do those things. So he taught me a few skills, and most of it was just patience and, taking your time with it and loving it.
Yes.
Honoring it, So, like, don't be in a rush.
And I think we are too much.
We are.
nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Let's not be in a rush. Let's enjoy the company of our community, and yeah.
Yeah, and like you ask, of course, would you like to be part of the smudging and clearing for us? Mm-hmm. And then the sage, usually it's sage you're working with, not always. Then the sage says yes or no, and it's more cooperative then as well, because you're honoring the energy of that. And it's not just an Indigenous thing. I'm willing to share if it's a spiritual thing that makes you a better person, makes you feel good, brings you comfort, makes it so you make decision A that's better for you as opposed to decision B. I'm all about sharing it. I'm not a gatekeeper for that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think the more things we can do that are spiritually and heart-centered will make for a better world overall.
Well, I like how the school board that I work for does, and if there are Indigenous students and they want to do like a smudge cleanse to start the morning, they will do that with their students.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
I don't know how often. I happened to be, it was earlier this year at one point I was at one of the schools, and at first, because I'm used to smelling it here. So like my nose was kind of acceptable in environments.
Right.
So like parlor, yeah, smudge, totally normal. At the school, I'm like, wait a minute. And I look outside and I was like, oh, that's cool. And that's what they're doing. They're lighting up the smudge and creating had a little bit of a circle going. And I think that was a really cool way to also like help kids ease into their day.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Like, I'm like,
Well, you've experienced being smudged, and you know how grounding it is. I think that's a good way to start every day, to
Yep.
be quite honest.
well, that was like your meditation circle on Friday. I'm like, can we do this every day? Like, I'm good. And for the rest of the day, I was like,
Well, and it's funny that you bring that up, because I was thinking when school is out, I would like to start a meditation circle for children,
ooh, that's a good idea.
to kind of get them
Yeah.
experiencing, like, I know it's not going to be an adult one, and like people fidget, right? Even
100%.
adults fidget.
100%.
And that's why I say, when we're in the meditation circle, if you need to scratch, if you need to move, like, I don't want you to get up and do jumping jacks, but like, don't feel like it's freeze tag and you have to stay like this for the rest of the circle.
Well,
right?
and I feel like there's sometimes there's an unrealistic expectation on our youth and our children in class. Like, some of them just have to move.
Yeah. And also, I think the experience of the meditation circle for the kids would be learning how to be still on purpose.
Okay, so there's an intention behind it.
Yeah.
So it's not just, oh, I have to sit still.
Yeah.
It's
you don't have to sit still and listen. Let's just practice being still.
Yeah.
Let's practice our breathing. Let's count that. And, like, it would be more of a moving meditation, but at the same time,
A meditation.
a meditation.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So I thought, oh, that would be kind of cool.
So if you want to see if that flies, or if you're interested in that, comment down below.
Yeah. Because I think if children learned at an earlier age how to come to center, how to be still on purpose, I think that would make for adults that are a lot less anxious, a lot less
Well,
nervous, a
and
lot
it's interesting.
less
Yes,
prone
you're-
to mental instability and
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's both environmental and kind of how they came to be, like nature versus nurture.
yeah, no, 100%.
But even
yeah.
but even if you added that aspect in at home with your kids, and then they had that toolbox or started to practice said toolbox, because I know adults that are like, where was the thrust of like before,
Yeah.
and where was this throughout my entire life? So it's like they can choose to use it, but they at least they have the option,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
you can't use what you don't know.
No, exactly. But let's give them that option.
Yeah,
that
100%.
Another tool in their toolbox.
Yeah.
Should again, I can't make them use it.
No.
But it's the
that
hammer is
choice,
always there
right?
once
That-
it's there,
yeah.
right? Like
100%. No, I love that idea, because then that gives them another. So like a lot of the kiddos I work with are working on strategies to calm themselves down when they're in a heightened state, and we usually choose like one or two, because that's really all they can handle when they're in a heightened state.
Right.
So it's like, do you want option A or option B? And if they're kind of like, nope, don't want those, I'm like, what about option C or option D?
Right.
So I don't present them all at once. Like I don't go,
Yeah.
which one, A, B, C, D.
well,
Like-
even with adults you can't do that. It's too much choice. Like I mean that's that's the problem with Netflix. There's too much.
Well, not even Netflix. Some of the stores sometimes. I used to. I'm getting better now because I'm like forcing myself to do this, but I don't grocery shop well. And it's
okay.
because there's too many choices. And it's
Oh.
really overwhelming, stimulating, and like it's not agoraphobia, but like I seriously had an aversion for years.
Okay.
And now that I'm like, okay, if I just go in for these 5 things, I can get in and get out.
Right, right.
So I'm starting to like build myself back up. But like I'll go to the mall and walk around for 2 hours, but I can't go grocery shopping.
Oh, okay.
Like not so much anymore. Like I don't know whether it's a pre-post pandemic thing that has something to do with it, but like I used to be able to go walk around for hours, and now I'm like, I got one thing to get in, I want to get in and get out.
I've always been the shopper that likes to shop with a purpose. I can't wander. I don't like that. I can't go into like the bay and just look at things, right?
Depends. If it's books, I can do that. If it's anything else, no.
Yeah, no, if it's books, I'll be buying them.
I want this one and this one and this one.
Don't bring me into a bookstore because I will always buy at least one book. Oh, yeah, yeah.
At least
that's-
one.
Yeah, at least one. And that's my husband and I look for bookstores when we're traveling, right? It's always frustrating though when it's in a different language. Like I found this beautiful bookstore in Prague,
Nice.
but none of them were English.
oh, so like not even like the section. Here's the English section.
yeah, no, nothing.
Really?
And I was like, darn it, you know. So that I think that was the only bookstore I didn't buy from. Oh, okay, it's getting low. It says it's at 10%.
Yeah.
So I guess we gotta go. It's short and sweet tonight, but that's okay. So I hope that gave you a few little things on how to cleanse your deck.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
And let us know which technique works for you.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Let your young fingers turn it off.